Ever since I can remember, I've always had a fascination with water. Whether it be watching a thunderstorm, enjoying thematic settings like BioShock and Soma, or diving down and enjoying the stillness of a breathless moment. Every summer I've had the opportunity to explore this lake, both above and below the water's surface, the latter of which came naturally to me. But over the years, age has brought new challenges due to the physical development of allergies and a mental adaptation affecting my enjoyment of simpler things. But something interesting happened last year. I rediscovered my love for water. Now, I tried capturing this last year when the feelings were still fresh, and I even posted a story about it. Ultimately, though, I started too late in the season and ran out of time to film. Additionally, I had some mental, physical, and technical issues to iron out in order to overcome and complete this project. The good news, though, is that I had an entire year to develop solutions and finally capture these feelings through film. So, one of the issues I ran into last year was this guy right here. It had good reviews, but it ended up fogging and leaking, which is why I'm pretty excited about what came in the mail today. This guy right here, the Mars Viper, not sure how it's pronounced. Pretty cool looking. Will it fit my face? Wow, there's a lot of sweat going on here. So with any new mask, you're supposed to use any of a couple of methods to remove the inside filament on the lens that it's shipped with. Otherwise, you'll have some fogging issues. And I've definitely had my fair share of fogging issues with this mask. So there are two methods you can use. One that is a little bit less anxiety-inducing. It's using toothpaste and then rubbing it on the inside of the lens to remove the filament. And the other, which is a bit more nerve-wracking, is using a lighter and actually just kind of burning the filament away. Now, I've already treated this mask with toothpaste, and I'm still having crazy fogging issues with it. So I don't know if I just didn't do it right, but regardless, since I have a new mask, I'm willing to try the lighter method on this guy. And if it goes well enough, I might try it on the new one too. But it definitely is a bit anxiety-inducing. Anyway, let's give it a go. Okay, so that actually ended up working pretty well. I'm gonna do it on the other mask and hope I don't catch it on fire. Now this one's a little bit more nerve-wracking. Much smaller volume of space going on here. All right, so now that both masks are done here, I'm gonna let them sit for a little bit, then I'm gonna wash them out, and then I'm gonna use the toothpaste method to get the spots around the edges that I didn't get. And at least in one video, I was instructed to leave the toothpaste on the mask for a significant period of time. So I'm trying to do this in prep of using it tomorrow. So, thanks, clock.
I've been wrong before. I was waiting in the undertow, set adrift with fed away like bones, unaware of where my heart was.
It didn't take long for this test to fail. My new mask started leaking. My watch failed to keep track of time, and the waves made themselves known just as I was preparing between breath holds. Familiar feelings of anxiety, anger, and stress washed over me, and the irony was not lost on me. Here I was, trying to capture the peacefulness of freediving, and yet my experience was anything but relaxing. So I decided the best thing for me to do was to take a step away and go through my options. I could give in to the technological and logistical limitations and have a repeat of last year, or I could set out to complete the project with the equipment I had at my disposal. So I actually tried to shoot this video last year, but I ran into a lot of issues. One of them being the technical issues or limitations of trying to just film myself underwater. So I started off trying to use like a typical action camera GoPro, and I found it to be difficult to frame up the shot, especially when I had a dynamic idea in mind, like jumping off of a cliff. I'd quickly go out of frame. So I upgraded, if you will, to a 360 camera, and that allowed me to just kind of plop this thing down and reframe my shot after the fact, so I could kind of track myself moving in a given scene. But even this had its technical limitations, as I had to dive down first to set up this camera and weigh it down with some rocks and find a flat place for it to settle and sit. And then I had to swim back up to the surface and catch my breath. And then I had to like reposition myself to where I intended the shot to be. And if it involved me finding a rock to use, I'd have to find that. And then I would go do my shot and find out that some curious fish decided they wanted to ruin it after all that effort. And then I'd swim back up to the top, capture my breath again, dive back down, and pick this guy up, and do that all for one shot that didn't turn out. And I would repeat that process over and over again. So naturally, I've had a year to try to come up with a better system, and I did, mentally anyway. So now I'm trying to quickly build it before we go out on a boat. I have one aspect of what I need, and this was just in my backpack for I don't know how many years, and I'm hoping to pick up a couple of other things I need before we head out on the lake and test it out. So one of the things I need is a set of weights that I was told I can find in here. I think these are the ones that nobody's supposed to be using. So these should do nicely. I need a weight to help kind of hold the camera down. And the other thing I need is a flotation device so that I can easily find where this whole setup is and be able to fetch it easily. So I guess I should grab that flotation device and not hold up my family anymore. It's time to get out on that lake. All right, so I'm here trying to workshop a prototype of the idea I had to make it easier to place this camera somewhere and film myself. And as you can see, it's pretty janky. I'm using some paracord, some weights, and the coup de grace, a Gatorade bottle, as my flotation device. So let's get on in and see if this thing actually does anything at all. Much to my surprise, my old mask was staying clear and my janky camera setup was working as intended. All that was left was to calm down and enjoy the moment. I know I don't appear graceful with my mask smushing my face and my untrained swimming style, but in this moment, when everything slows down and noise becomes minimal, gravity optional, I find myself enjoying the stillness. Every step towards progress on this project was also a step towards a new setback. I may have made strides in the logistical and technological department, but my mental game was suffering. My breath holds were shorter than I anticipated, and my desire to overcome obstacles was waning. On the one hand, I was training for longer breath holds and deeper dives. And on the other hand, anxiety was rising and fear started to set in as I wondered how far I should push myself for this project. Over the course of a couple dives, I started to notice a ringing in my right ear. I didn't think much of this since I've dealt with it before and normally it clears up after a brief period of time. But I'd come to find out that it wouldn't clear up, and something very interesting would happen on one of my dives. As I was resurfacing, I was feeling a little off, and I wasn't sure what I was feeling or experiencing, so I thought I might be getting lightheaded from a breath hold, and I sought out shallow water to get my bearings and get some footing. Only to realize that when I looked down, I experienced a significant amount of vertigo. I was hopeful that this would clear up on its own if given time, but as I stood waiting, the symptoms didn't clear up. I thought it best to call it a day and refrain from diving any further. So, I got home and did what anyone with an internet access would do when faced with an unfamiliar medical situation. I consulted Dr. Google. I landed on ear barotrauma as the likely candidate, but wanted a more informed opinion. So I sought out counsel from a medical professional by way of virtual visitation and described my experience. The resulting assessment was not what I had hoped for. I was instructed to seek out a proper in-person medical evaluation and was urged to treat this as an emergency due to the probability of permanent hearing loss. So, after asking for driving assistance and unspoken emotional support, I found myself at the hospital, unsure of what medical advice I would receive. Thankfully, I received a diagnosis from 2 doctors during my visit, one of them being the supervising physician. I was told that although I was correct in my assessment of ear barotrauma, the severity of the incident was unlikely to cause permanent hearing loss. So, I left the hospital with a weight lifted off of my shoulders. As the threat of permanent ear damage faded from my mind, my video project took its place. With instructions to rest and refrain from diving, I took this event as a sign that my project was over. I began the process of shifting gears and focusing on other ways to enjoy water with what was left of my summer. I found myself reflecting on this project and attempting to shift my perspective around failure. I may not have completed the project I set out to do, but I learned an important lesson about letting go of a vision and choosing to go with the flow.